Mem Beis 46b. It's in the art tool is probably on the last page for 46b. The regular Gemara, it's 7 lines from the bottom, 8 lines from the bottom. Okay, so let's see. Roim Barchama had a shayla. He had a question. He was wondering about that if, let's say, someone bows down, someone serves as an idol stalks of grain, what's the halacha about this grain to be used for menachos, for korban mincha? Meaning, korban mincha is a sacrifice that was brought in the Beis Hamikdash, which is made out of flour and water and spices, flour and oil and spices. And so let's say if that flour comes from grain that was used, that was bowed down to as an Avodah Zora. So yesh shinoi b'nevad or ein shinoi b'nevad? Is there a shinoi? Is there a halachic status of something being changed when something gets served as an idol, or not? Meaning, in other words, that when it comes to let's say someone who's not, it's not in terms of a holy use, not for the Beis Hamikdash, not for the temple. Let's say a regular person wants to get benefit from this grain, so that would be permitted, because like we were discussing yesterday, anything that's mechuber, anything that's attached to the ground, does not become forbidden in benefit to a regular person. Our shaila over here is specifically for in terms of Gavoa, in terms of the Beis Hamikdash. So shaila number 1 is saying that, which is really what we were discussing yesterday the whole time, is that is there shinoi b'nevad? Is there an isser by mechuber, something that's attached, does it become forbidden for the Beis Hamikdash? For a regular person, it doesn't, but does it become forbidden for the Beis Hamikdash? Now, even if you say it does, so over here there's another reason why it might be permitted to be used for, let's say, a korban mincha, which is that over here it gets changed from its original form, meaning since it was bowed down to when it was grain, and then you take the kernels and you grind it up. So maybe it's only forbidden to Gavoa, maybe it's only forbidden to the Beis Hamikdash and to be used for sacrifices and for holy purposes. Maybe it's only forbidden when it's in original form. But once you change it, once you grind it up, maybe that now it's a different thing. It's a different item, and that will be fine. So that's the Gemara Shaila. Yesh shinoi b'nevad or not? And therefore, if you would say not, then even though you ground it up, it still would be forbidden. So Amar Mar Zutra, Breder of Nachman, Toshma. So Mar Zutra, the son of Nachman, said, Toshma, come in here, let's bring a proof. There's a Mishnah or a Brisa, the Mishnah that says, Kol Asur Negavi Mizbeach, L'Dusei Mutar. Anything which is forbidden for the Mizbeach, anything which is forbidden for the altar, the Vlodos, meaning the offspring from it, the kids that come from it, Mutarim, they're permitted. So, V'tani Allah, son of Bryce on it, Rabbi Eliezer Oser. Rabbi Eliezer said it's forbidden. So, meaning, the way we're understanding this back and forth is that we're assuming is that Kol Asur, when it says anything is forbidden, I mean, that's referring to something that gets served as an idol, something that's designated to be served as an idol. And we think that what we're talking about, and the Gemara's Havamina, the Gemara's initial understanding, we think what we're talking about is that, let's say you have an animal which was pregnant, it was previously pregnant, it's already pregnant, and then it was used as an Avodah Zora, someone bowed down to it as an Avodah Zora, or someone lived with it, he did a promiscuous act with it. So that animal becomes forbidden. The animal itself, for sure, becomes forbidden to be used for the altar, to be brought as a korban. It's disgusting, can't be brought. But the question is that baby that ends up being born from this animal, does that become forbidden as well? And our understanding is we have this machlokas. The Tanakama says it's fine. Liz says it's forbidden. So we're understanding the machlokas is that Tanna Kama, who says it's permitted, he holds that yesh shinoi b'nevad. I mean, that shaila we were saying before, is there shinoi b'nevad or not? We're learning the Tanna Kama who says that's permitted. That's because it changed. It used to be just a fetus, and now it's an animal. So since it changed, the form of what it was when the time it was served, therefore it's permitted to be used for the altar. Whereas Rabbi Dovid says no, he's going to say ain't shinoi b'nevad, that even though it changed, it used to be a fetus and now it's an animal, baby animal. Even so, it was forbidden since it was served. So Mar Zutra Breder of Nachman is trying to prove from here that this shaila the Ram Barchama has about what happens when wheat is served as an idol, can it be used for the Beis Hamikdash? Can it be used for Karban Mincha? So he's trying to prove that these Tanoim really argue about that exact question. So when it says V'lav Imar law was not set on it, Amar Nachman, Amar Abba Barabua, Machlokas Kishanirbu, Ubusov Ibru. And they're going to the top of Mem Zayin Amar 478. Aval Ibru Ubusov Nirbu, but if it was first became pregnant and then it was Nirbu, then they had intimacy, the animal and the person. Everyone agrees that it's forbidden. Meaning is that you're misunderstanding the machlokas. From Nachman Amar Baravua, we know that they understood the machlokas in a totally different way, which is that the machlokas is when it became pregnant after the act was done. And therefore it's not a machlokas about yesh shinoi b'nevad or ain't shinoi b'nevad, because the animal wasn't there at the time that it was served. The baby animal was conceived later. The question is a totally different machlokas. It's a machlokas of zev zeh gori. When you have two things that cause something, does that make it become forbidden or no? Is it still permitted? That over here, when a person lived with it, an animal lived with it, and it conceived, so the Tanna Kama says permitted because it's fine. It's really from the animal. Whereas Rabbi Eliezer says no, it's not fine because the person helped as well, and therefore it is forbidden. But Rav Nachman Amar Bavua says that when it comes to a case where it's pregnant previous to the act of Revia happening, everyone would agree that it's forbidden because the fetus, was there when it was served as an idol. So therefore they're both forbidden, and even though it changed, it doesn't make a difference. It ain't shunim b'nevad. The fact that it changed from what it was at that time, at that point as a fetus, and now it's a real animal, doesn't make a difference. So, here also, over here by the grain, by the wheat, it's also it's also like that case where it became pregnant and then the act of Revia happened later. The kernels of wheat are here when it was served, and then it was the kernels of wheat were previous to the act of being served. So therefore, it doesn't make a difference. That changes later. So therefore, we don't see some machlokas, but rather based on this understanding of the machlokas, really everyone agrees that to one side of the shayla that it will be forbidden. The Ikad Amri, the Ikad Amri, those that say that Itmar was said on it, the Bach has in Amr Nachman Amr Avua, Machlokas Kishanirbu, Usof Ibru, Ava Ibru Usof Nirbu, Dibra Kol Aser. Meaning the difference in this other version is that we don't have an initial understanding and then we switch. Rather, the proof all along that was brought was when Mar Zutra was talking, the proof he was bringing was from this statement of Rav Nachman Amar Avua, that he said that the machlokas is only when there was Revia first and then it became pregnant later. But if it became pregnant first and then Revia later, then it would be forbidden because the fetus was around at the time that it was served. The Haninami here, these also kibrus of nirbudam. These also mean the wheat, the stalks of wheat, are also like ibrus of nirbu. It's also like a case where it became pregnant and later on Revia happened, because it was there at that time, and therefore it doesn't make a difference if it was changed later. So where's one second? Hochi hashta. Hold on one second. Hosami kora behimo the hashta behimo dalshahuda achiza b'ampo. That this is not comparable. Over there, before being served, it was an animal. When it was served, it was an animal. Now, when you want to get benefit from it, it's also an animal. It's just it's just that the womb was closed in front of it. But it's the same thing. It's just before it was in the mother and now it's out of the mother. Here originally it was wheat, it was kernels of wheat, and now it's flour. It's a totally different thing. It's a different item, it's a different entity. So you can't be, that's not comparable. You can't prove from that case in Shinoi ben Evad, because over there it's not a Shinoi. That's not changing it. Saying there used to be a fetus and now it's a real animal, that's not called changing. It's the same animal, just before it was in the womb, now it's out of the womb. But over here, it used to be wheat and now it's flour. That's a real change. So therefore, the Gemara feels that's not comparable. It can't prove anything based on this. Okay. Boy, Reish Lakish. So now Reish Lakish, he wants to ask a question as well. He wants to ponder a question. Let's say someone bows down to a palm tree. It's lulav. A palm tree grows lulavim. So can you use the lulavim that come from it for a mitzvah, for lulav, for sukkahs? So when you have a tree that was planted originally for the purpose of Avodah Zora, there's no shaila. Even not for a mitzvah, even just for a person's personal use, which in general is more lenient, that's also forbidden. It was planted originally to be an idol. When do we have a question? That's by a tree that was planted, no one served at the end. Meaning originally it was planted not for the purpose of idol worship, and then later on it was served. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we're not going to have a shiloh because over there, even for a head yod, even for a regular person, for personal use, it's also forbidden. When do we have a shiloh? It's according to the Rabbanon lenyi mitzvah mai. When it comes to mitzvah, what's the halacha? I mean, earlier we had a machlokas. Yesterday we discussed this machlokas. It's Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda and the Rabbanon about when you have a tree, an asher tree, which is planted initially not for the purpose of idol worship, and later on it gets served. Does that make it forbidden for personal use or not? Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda says yes. Or does the Rabbanon say no? So according to Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, over here definitely you can't use the lulav for the mitzvah, because it doesn't make a difference that it wasn't planted originally to be an idol, because it was served later. Our question is according to the Rabbanon. The Rabbanon say that it's permitted for personal use. So what's the shaila then? If it's permitted for permissible use and for personal use, why can't a person use it for a mitzvah? So Gemara says, "Mimo is klabi gavor lo." Is it disgusting to Shemayim? Is it disgusting to Hashem or not? I mean, maybe even though it's permitted for personal use, to use it for a mitzvah, that's disgusting. To use something that's served as an idol, that would be disgusting. There's a higher standard when it comes to a mitzvah. Do we say that or no? Do we say that the same way that's permitted for any personal use, it's permitted to be used for a mitzvah as well? And again, just in terms of the background of the shiloh, this is all granting that there is. This is all granting that there is nevad b'mechuber, meaning when it comes to something which is attached. Right? Earlier we had a question about if something's attached, for personal use that doesn't become forbidden. If something's attached, it gets started as an idol. But for gavoa, for Hashem's use, for holy purposes, we have a question. So this is all granting that it would become forbidden even if it's attached. So like this Hashira. So fine. So that's our question. Question is, according to Rabbanon, is there a higher standard when it comes to a mitzvah that it's more disgusting and you can't use it? He also Rav Dimi Amar, when Rav Dimi came, when he came to Israel, he said that that was not the shiloh. There was a different shiloh. The shiloh was about an asherah tree that became bottle. that the asher trade previously was forbidden even for a hedio, and then bittul happened to it. So after bittul happens to it, it's permitted for personal use for a hedio. The question is that can that be used for a mitzvah? That yesh dichoy eitzel mitzvos. Do we say that there is dichoy, that there's something can be pushed off forever by mitzvos? Oh, ain't dichoy eitzel mitzvos. Do we say no? There's no things getting pushed off. Meaning, do we say that since at the time before bittul happened, this lulav cannot be used for the mitzvah of lulav? Therefore, since it's pushed away from having that status of being able to be used for the mitzvah, it can't be used forever. That's the side of yesh dichoy. Or do we say ein dichoy? That just because it wasn't fitting before, didn't have the status of being able to be used before, doesn't mean that it can't be used forever. Now that's fitting, you could use it, and therefore it's permitted. So Gemara says, "Tifshalei miditanan." We could prove this. We can answer this question from that which is taught in the Mishnah. Kiso niskala pater melchasos. Kiso arua achayev lechasos. That if it's covered and then it gets revealed, he's pater is exempt from covering. If the wind covers it, he's obligated to cover it. So what's this talking about? This is talking about the mitzvah of kisoy adam. There's a mitzvah that when a person slaughters an animal, he has to cover the blood with dirt. So the Mishnah is telling us that if he covered it and then wind came and it uncovered it, he's exempt. It already was covered. If the wind covered it, then he's obligated to cover it. But Amar Abba Baruch Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Lo Shanu, this was only taught El Shechazav Niskala. This is only taught if it went back and became revealed of a Lo Chazav Niskala Pater Malchasos. If it didn't go back and be revealed, he's exempt from covering it. Meaning, when the Mishnah says that the wind covered the blood, he's obligated to cover it. That was only said if it became uncovered afterwards and became revealed afterwards. But if it stayed covered, you're not chayiv to go put on more dirt. You're not obligated to go put on more dirt. But we ask, when it goes back and gets revealed, why does that make a difference? Once it gets pushed off, meaning once it's already exempt from kisui adam, so it should be pushed off forever. Meaning at the time that the wind covered it, at that time it was exempt from kisui adam. If it's covered, it's covered. It only becomes obligated if it's revealed, if it's open. So once it got pushed off, since it was exempt, it should be pushed off forever. That was our question. Our Papa said, Zosomeris, this teaches us in dichoy etzel mitzvos. This teaches us that there's no dichoy by mitzvos. That we don't say if something gets pushed off, it's now pushed off forever. Over here, it was exempt from kisui adam. Kisui adam wasn't necessary because the wind covered it. And then once it becomes uncovered, then it is obligated because now it's revealed and it doesn't make a difference what its previous status in terms of the mitzvah is. In dichoy mitzvah. So too here comes to the lulav, we should say in dichoy, and we should say it's just because before you weren't able to use it as a lulav, in dichoy. Now that it's fitting to be used as a lulav, go for it. We don't say that once it was pushed off from being able to be used, it's now able to be, now it's pushed off forever. So the Gemara says, one second, you can't prove from Rav Papa anything. Rav Papa Gufei Boile. Rav Papa himself, he had this shiloh. He had this question. He was wondering about whether we say yesh dichoy, ein dichoy by mitzvos. Mifsha pshita le Rav Papa de ein dichoy etel mitzvos. Lo shna lekula, lo shna lechumra. So what is it that Rav Papa it became obvious to him that there's no dichoy by mitzvahs, like it seems. Lo shal kul, lo shal chomer. Doesn't make a difference whether you're being lenient or whether you're being stringent. Odilma, or maybe sfuke misafkala. Rav Papa was misupik. He had a doubt. He wasn't sure. And specifically to be stringent, he says, ain't dichoy. But lakul lo amin. To be lenient, we don't say. So Teku, this question remains unanswered. So we're saying is that Rav Papa himself had the shiloh, but we don't know. Is it that Rav Papa said, okay, I see from this Mishnah of Kisui Adam, I see that from the fact that it's only if the wind covered it and then it later on became revealed, you're obligated. Do I see for sure, without any doubts, that in dichoy b'mitzvos, or maybe Rav Papa was just saying, maybe that's one way. Maybe that's one approach, or maybe he was saying he wasn't sure, he had no idea, and therefore he was saying is that to be stringent, we're going to say that in dichoy. But we're here to be stringent to say that okay, we don't know if you're obligated in covering the blood or not. We don't know because it was already exempt before, and now it became revealed. But is there dichoy or not? We don't know. So to be stringent and say, okay, you have to go and do it anyways, that I'll say. But to come along in our case of the lulav, where in dichoy would be a kula, that'd be lenient. Because if you would say in dichoy, that would make it that the lulav is now permit you can use it for the mitzvah. That's being lenient. So who says that he would say it there? To be lenient, he wouldn't go. To be stringent, fine. He'd be careful. He'd be stringent. Be lenient, he's not sure enough that he would say in dichoy. So take this remains an answer. We don't know what the answer is about in dichoy or yesh dichoy. Okay. If someone bows down to an animal, what's the halachic status of its wool for tchelas? So the Gemara says tchelas demai. Tchelas of what? Eat tchelas the kohanim. If it's tchelas for kohanim, for the priest in the Beis Hamikdash, hainu boy de Rami Bar Chama. That's exactly the shaila of Rami Bar Chama. If it's tchilas for tzitzis, that's the shaila of Reish Lakish. Meaning, if we're talking about tchilas of kohanim, meaning, what is that referring to? The big day kahuna, the clothes that the kohanim wore for their avodah, for their service in Beis Hamikdash, that had tchilas in it. And our shaila would be that is something which is not the carbon itself, it's not the sacrifice itself, it's something that's necessary for the carbon. It's machshirei carbon, something helpful for the carbon. Does not have the same status as the carbon, the same way that the carbon is forbidden. So to this will be forbidden as well. And if you're going to tell me that it's machshirei carbon is like a carbon, that something used as preparation for carbon is like a carbon itself, then it could be that it's still fine because it got changed from its original form. Yeshinu ben evan or not. So because over here it was originally just wool on the animal. And then it got changed, it got spun, it got dyed. So does that allow it to be used now for Gavoa? So Gemara says that if it's tchilas for kahuna, that's the shaila of Rami Bar Chama. Because Rami Bar Chama himself had exactly the shaila. It wasn't the same case. He was wondering is if someone bows down to kamaschitim, do we say that if something's attached, does that become forbidden? And even if it does, do we say that is there yeshinu ben eva? It's the same shaila as here, yeshinu ben eva or not? Something gets changed from its original form. Is it still forbidden to be used for the Beis Hamikdash? And if it's tchelas of tzitzis, which we know that tzitzis require tchelas, we don't really wear tchelas because we don't know what it is exactly. But if it's tchelas of tzitzis, so the shaila would be that even though it's permitted for personal use because we attached an animal at that time, but do we say that for a mitzvah it has a higher caliber, as a higher standard, and it's disgusting for a mitzvah? So that's the shaila of Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish had that shaila too. Something which is permitted for personal use, should it be used for a mitzvah, or do we say that no, it's disgusting? Can you use it? So what shaila is he having? The two shailas that he could be asking were already asked. So Gemara says, you're right, he really did not have to have this question, because it's the same shaila as the Reish Lakish and Rami Bar Chama. That what he was asking the shaila, he had other cases together with it. It's wool, what's the halachic status for tchelas? Karneho, it's horns, what's the halachic status for horns? For trumpets. Shokel, it's thighs, ma'ul chalilin. What's the halachic status if you can use it to make a flute? It's innards, it's intestines. Can you use it for pe'eros? Which Rashi explains that those are the strings of a harp. And it's actually interesting. Rashi says they're called chords. Balaz. Interesting, it's an English word too. Chords. So he threw in these other cases, and that's why he asked the Shaila. So Gemara says, Aliba demanda Amar Ikar Shir B'Kli Lo Tibaylecha. According to the opinion who says that the main shira, the main song that accompanied the karbanos was with instruments, there's no Shaila Devade Aser. Surely forbidden. Definitely forbidden, because it was served. Ki Tibaylecha Aliba demanda Amar Ikar Shir B'Peh. We have a Shaila according to the Mandam, according to the opinion who says the main shira is don't the mouth. So do we say Basume Kala Ba'alma, these instruments are just sweetening the sound of the voice, and it's fine. My sinon, you could bring it. Or Dilma, or maybe a few Hachi also. Do we say maybe even so is forbidden? To take the question remains unanswered. Meaning we know that when sacrifices were brought in the Beis Hamikdash, they were accompanied with music. They're accompanied with instruments and singing. So there's a machlokas in Sukkah about what is the main part of that accompanying music. Is it the instruments, or is it the song? Meaning, is it that, or the singing? Meaning the nafkamina would be, is that, let's say you're missing one, would that stop the carbon from being yotze? When you not fulfill your obligation when bringing the carbon? If you say that the main shira is done with instruments, if there's no instruments, you didn't fulfill your obligation. If you say that the main shira is done with the mouth singing, they didn't fulfill their obligation, there's no singing. So what we're saying is that when it comes to using this animal which was served, and you want to use pieces of it for instruments. So according to the Mandamar, who says that the main part of Shira, the main part of the song that accompanied Karbanos was with the instruments, there's no Shaila, it's definitely forbidden, because that's being used for the purpose of the Beis Hamikdash. But our Shaila is according to the Mandamar, who says that the Iker Shir is done with the singing, is considered like it's just a side thing, it's not really needed, it's just Basumi Kala, and therefore it's fine. We say no, even so, it's being used for the Beis Hamikdash, and it's forbidden. That either you could say even so, since it's being used for mitzvah, it's disgusting and it's forbidden, or you could say is that no, even if, let's say by a lulav it's permitted, still over here, since it's the tzorach carbon, it's being used for a sacrifice, it's even more disgusting. And the Gemara ends up Teku, this question remains unanswered. We don't know what the answer to this shaila is. Boy Rabba had a shaila. Hamishtachave lemaya. Someone bows down to a spring of water. Meimov ma'ul and sachim. What's the halachic status of the water of the well of the spring for nesachim, for being poured on the altar for libations? There were certain times water was brought. I think it's really only on Sukkot they had water poured on the mizbeach. But could you use this water? So Ma'ikami Ba'ilei, the Gemara says, what's the shaila talking about? If we say that, is the shaila that, is he bowing down to his reflection, or is he bowing down to the water? Meaning, is his question that, is he just serving his reflection in the water, and then the water itself will be fine, or is he serving the water itself, and therefore the water is not fine, it can't be used? So the Gemara says, if that was a shaila, so don't ask about a spring of water, a natural spring. Ask the shaila just by like a regular bowl of a hedio. Ask by a regular bowl, and for a hedio. Meaning from the fact that we're asking the shaila, Rashi explains, from the fact that we're asking the shaila by something which is attached, by something which is natural, something that's attached to the spring. And where the shaila is interpreted for Gavoa, the shaila is for the purpose of the Beis Hamikdash. So that seems that's obvious to us that if it's detached and it's being used for a person's personal use, then it would be forbidden. But the Gemara is saying, but we can have the shaila as detached also. Have that shaila when it's in a bowl. Do we say that, is he serving his reflection, or is he serving the water, and therefore it's going to be forbidden? We should have the same shaila there. So why does it seem, the fact that it's asking about tzorach gavoa and when it's attached, it seems that this is obvious. So this can't be the shaila. So the Ola, the Gemara says, really, it's true. Lamaya kasagi. He's serving the water, and therefore, when it comes to the just terms for a hedio or a person's personal use, and it's detached, of course, it's forbidden. But here's the shaila. Lamaya dekamei kasagid kamoi kamoi azdu. Do we say that he's specifically serving the water that's right in front of him, and then the water is constantly moving, and therefore the water he serves is not here anymore, the left? and therefore it's permitted to get benefit. He's not bowing down specifically to that water. He's bowing down to the stream, to the stream of the river. And therefore, if it's then the whole entity of the stream of the river, it doesn't make a difference if that specific water is no longer there. It's still forbidden because he was bowing down to this river. So anything in the river is forbidden. So that's the shayla. But when it comes to water that's detached, he's definitely serving the water, and therefore it's definitely be forbidden for, if it's in a bowl, it's definitely be forbidden for personal use. So Gemara says, "Me mitzri, is that forbidden?" Va'amar of Yochanan mishum Rav Shimon ben Yotzadok, ma'im shel rabim ein esarim. How could we have a shayla? How could we have a side potentially that this is forbidden? But we know that Rabbi Yochanan says that ma'im shel rabim, public water, can't become forbidden. A person can't cause water that belongs to the public become forbidden and gain benefit. So Gemara says, "Lo tzricha the kanavi me'ara." No, it's needed. It's needed in a case where it is coming from the ground. Meaning what? Meaning that doesn't really answer so much. Toz explains Ratzalomar that it doesn't leave their field. Meaning it's just using a person's personal field, this water. This spring is all on a person's field, and therefore it's not Mayim Shel Rabbi. It's not public water, and therefore we can have this Shaila. It really could become forbidden, since it's not public water. And therefore, we have this Shaila, do we say that he's serving specifically that water that at that time he bowed down? Or no, is he serving the entirety of the spring? Okay, new Mishnah. Bottom of Mem Zayin and Aleph, bottom of 47a, new Mishnah. Misha Haya, the back changes to Koslo. Misha Koslo Samoch La'avodas Kochavim. Someone whose wall, I mean, he shares a wall. He shares a wall with a base Avodas Kochavim, with a house of worship for idols. So and it used to be that when you had a house of worship for idols, they would serve the house itself as well. But not fall, the wall fell. Also, Livnoso, it's forbidden to rebuild it. Because if you rebuild it, you're building a wall for idol purposes, for idol worship purposes. So Kate said, yeah, so what should he do? He should enter into his own property for Amos and build the wall there. And therefore, it won't be used for idol worship because he's moving into his property. And the idol worship house will have to build a new wall. Let's say it was half and half. The wall wasn't both of theirs equally, rather each owned half. That the first 2 amos are owned by the Jew, one that's closer in his property, and the other 2 are owned by the idolaters, the idol worshippers. And so what's the halacha there? So the Mishnah says Nino Mecha Mecha. It's we view it halfway, meaning that portion that belonged to the non-Jew, those 2 amos, it doesn't have to go. That doesn't have to be calculated into his 4 amos. Meaning, let's say the wall itself, Rashi examples. Let's say the wall itself had a thickness of 2 amos. So all you have to do is just count your amo, and then go in another 3 amos into your property. You don't have to go 4 amos from the wall. You just have to go 4 amos from where the guy's wall is, which is only half the wall. So you only have to go 3 amos into your property. Avono of Eitzav, the Afaro Mitamin Kesheretz. The stones, the wood, the dust that came out from this wall, they're all are impure like a sheretz, like some types of shratzim, type of crawling animals the Torah describes have impurities. Shenemar shakes shaksen. The pasuk says by Avodah Zora, it has to be sheketz, which is a way of describing a sheretz is also shaketz, which means that it should be disgusting. That's a lashon of a sheretz. This is it's impure like a sheretz. So Kiva Omer Kinida. Kiva says it's impure like a woman who's having her period. Shenemar tizorim kimo dava say tomalo. The pasuk in Shaya says they should scatter it like a dava. As you should say to it. This is talking about Avodah Zora, and the word dava is another word for nida. Torah uses the word dava for nida. So we see Yeshaya is saying that an idol is like a nida. And what's the difference about whether it's like a sheretz or like a nida? So Mishnah says, "Ma nida mitama b'masa, af avodas kochavim mitama b'masa." Just like a nida, it makes something tamei even just through lifting it. So to an idol, is forbidden. It makes something impure. I'm sorry, even just through lifting it. Meaning, in general, there's two types of tumah. There's maga and there's masa. Maga means if you touch it, you become impure. Masa means if you lift it, even if you don't touch it, you're holding 10 things and there's a whole stack of things, and the thing all the way on top is an idol. That's masa. That's not maga. You're not touching it. This masa would also make you impure. So by Asherah, it's masa does not make you impure, but only maga does, only touching it. But by nida, even masa, even just lifting it makes you impure. So that's the difference. Rabbi Kiva is more strict about the impurity of an idol. Okay, let's see the Gemara. The Gemara says, if you go in 4 amos into your property, so now you're adding more space for the idol worship, and you're still benefiting the the idolaters. So Amar Chanina says, Misura from Surah said, the Avalei Besa Kise. You know what you do with that is extra 4 amos? You turn it into a bathroom. That's what you do with the extra 4 amos. So if you're not giving extra space for the idol worshiper. So he says, but how can you use this as a bathroom? But by it's niusa, you need privacy. And you can't build a wall here, like we said before. You can't build a wall because that's going to help the idol worshippers. So Gemara says the avalei besakisa delaila. You make a nighttime besakisa. Back then they didn't have lights; it was dark at night, it's pitch black, and therefore the saying is that this is per nighttime. It's a bathroom at nighttime, even though it doesn't have walls. So Gemara says, but Mar said, Ezo Tzenua, who's someone who's considered Tzenua, someone considered modest, and Nitna Balayla b'makom shenifna bayom. Someone who uses the bathroom at night in the place that you would use the bathroom during the day. Even though we established it that it's not literally, this is not literal. It doesn't literally mean that you use the bathroom at night and the place to use the bathroom during the day. Because it's not literally that you have to distance the same way, but rather it's kiderach. It's like the way they use the bathroom during the day, meaning that there's some level of modesty, there's some level of privacy. So too at night you should have some level of privacy. It doesn't have to be exactly the same standard, but there should be some level of tznius. But even though we say it's kiderach, it's something like the way, you still have to do tznius. You have to act modestly. So that you can't just use the bathroom in the open, even if it's at nighttime. So Gemara says the avad le'latinokos. It's a bathroom made for little kids. Inami di goderle behizmi behinki. Or alternatively, you could say is that it's where you fill up this extra space with hizmi and hinki, which are types of thorns and I don't know what else they translate hizmi and hinki.
Brambles and thorn bushes.
Brambles and thorn bushes. You fill it up with that, and therefore it can't be used. And therefore, that's how you're not benefiting the idolaters through giving this extra space. Okay, we're on Mem Zayin and Beis. We're up to the Mishnah. Mem Zayin and Beis. Okay, so the Mishnah says, Shlosha Batani. There are 3 types of houses. There are 3 categories of houses when it comes to being mevatel, nullifying an idol. A house which was built from the beginning for idol worship, that's forbidden. For sure. Because the whole house, right, we said when you have a house for idol worship, it's not just that they serve idols in the house, but the house itself is served. And therefore you have to move out of the house, you have to destroy it somewhat. And if it belongs to a Jew, it's forbidden forever because there's no bittul by something belonging to a Jew. Saido v'kaido lavodas kochavim, the chidesh. Let's say he plastered it and he painted it for idol worshippers, and he added something. So notel mashachidesh. All you have to do, if a Jew wants to be mevatel, all he just has to do is just take what what was added on, and then it becomes permitted, even though the non-Jew wasn't mevatel it. Or if it belonged to a Jew, it is able to become batel, since originally it was made to be a house for people to live in, and only later on it was turned into an idol and it was used for idols. Bittul is to destroy it. You don't have to destroy it totally. You just have to take away what was added. The third category of houses is that, let's say the house itself was never designated. The intention never was to serve the house. It was just used to put an idol on it temporarily. You just put an idol on it temporarily. But the house itself was never served. So that's permitted. This house is permitted to get benefit from. So these are three categories. Number one, if it's built for the purpose of idol worship. Number two is that it's not built for the purpose of idol worship, but later on it's used when it's served. The idol is served when it's in there. Number three is when the idol is just brought in there, just for storage temporarily. So the Gemara says, someone bows down to the house itself, it forbids it. It makes it forbidden to get benefit from. You see from here that something which was originally detached and then later on became attached to each other, that's ketalosh as the status of the detached. I mean, earlier we've been discussing how if something is detached, it becomes forbidden if it's served as an idol, or something that's attached doesn't become forbidden. So over here, it used to be just regular bricks; those are detached, and then later on became attached together as a house. So we see Rav, from the fact he's saying it's forbidden, we see that he says that's considered ketalosh when it's originally talosh and then it's attached later. So Gemara says, "Va'anan beno tanan," but we taught in our Mishnah, we taught that we taught beno. He said that if it was built for Avodas Kohanim, it sounds like it wasn't built for Avodas Kohanim. It was just that if it was originally built for something else, and then it became used for idol worship, so then it would be fine. According to Rav, it shouldn't be fine because it's talosh b'sov chibro is ketalosh. So Gemara says, "Beno alpha pishlo shtachbalo." No, there's two types. There's if it's built for idol worship, even though it was never served, or shtachva alpha pishlo beno, or if it was served, even though it wasn't built. So meaning there's really two things. If it was built, even though it wasn't served, then it's forbidden immediately. I mean, our Tana holds that idols are forbidden immediately, even though they weren't served. And even if it wasn't built for idols, but then later on it was served, then also that would make the whole house forbidden, according to Rav. So Gemara says, "Ihochi, if so, Hani Shlosha Arba." These three cases, it's really four cases. There's four types of houses. There's Beno, and it wasn't served. There was where it was served, but it wasn't built for that purpose. There's where it was plastered for the sake of idol worshiping, and that you have to just take off that which is added on the plaster. And case 4 was just idol was just stored in it. So the Gemara says, no, keeping linyan bittul, for bittul tanan, that's what we're talking about. It was built and it was bowed down to, those are taught together. Meaning, since they both have an equal halacha in terms of bittul, that's totally forbidden and it needs bittul, and it belongs to a Jew, there can't be bittul. Since there's an equal halacha, the Mishnah categorizes it as one thing. And the Mishnah is not categorizing by every case possible. The Mishnah is categorizing based on halachas, 3 different halachas. And since these two have the same halacha, therefore it's in one category. Okay, let's see the next Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Sholosh Avanim, the 3 types of stones. Even shechatzava min tchila lebimos, a stone which was originally harvested, it was originally broken off for the purpose of a bimos, which a bimos is like a platform for idols. You put the actual image of the idol on it. So if it was harvested for that purpose, harezu asura, it's totally forbidden. Side of a if it was not broken off, it was not harvested from the mountain for that purpose, but it was just plastered later for idol worshiping. No till mashasai, you just have to take off that which was plastered on, bekayit, and that which was painted on muteris, and it's permitted. The silka, if he just put an idol on it, but it wasn't bowed down to, and he removed it, just put it on temporarily, harezu muteris. It's totally permitted. It means it's pretty much parallel the house cases. It's exactly the same as the house cases, just so we were talking about the 8 stones. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Ami. Rav Ami said, V'husha savor. This is we're talking about. I'm sorry, V'husha sayed the kayed begufo shalavet. This is where he plastered and painted it in the guf, in the innards of the stone, meaning you etched in it with metal and you put plaster in there, but over there, that's where without bittul it would be totally forbidden. But if it was just on the outside, then it would be fine. But so the Gemara says 1 second. But the stones are being taught similar to the case of the houses. By the houses, when we said that it was side of a kayed, there was plaster upon it, that's not inside it, that's on the outside. You put plaster on the outside of the house. So to here, if we're matching, if we're being symmetrical with that Mishnah, over here also we're talking about where it's plastered. The plaster should also just be on the outside of it. So the Gemara says, "Bias nami ika bini orbi." No, when it comes to houses, it's also inside. Why? Because there's in between the bricks. In between the bricks, there's indentations, and therefore the plaster really is going inside of it. So therefore, it is similar to the house, even though the stones we're going to be talking about is where it's going inside of it. So Gemara says back, "Milo askina." We're not talking about by the house, the shia of a hadar shia that where it was that where it was originally plaster was put on it before the Isser, meaning isn't the Mishnah talking about all cases? Meaning you're limiting the Mishnah to specifically be talking about a case where it was plastered beforehand, but isn't talking about a case where isn't talking about all cases. And since it's talking about all cases, 1 second. Meaning, right, aren't we talking about a case where it's already plastered beforehand? And therefore, if you put on plaster on afterwards as well, that's not going inside of it because it's already pre-plastered. It's just going to be on the outside. It's going to be an outer coating. So therefore, you can't tell me specific that, it's going in between the indentations. It is, but it's talking about all cases. It's talking about a case where it's pre-plastered as well. So Gemara says, Elakim or Rabami, when did Rabami talk? When did Rabami say that it has to be begufa shalaven, be inside? He was saying, talking about bittul. That the Abba gav the side begufa shalaven, he not mashachidi shaper dami. He was saying a chiddush that even if the plaster was plastered inside of the rock, surely if it was plastered only on the outside of the rock and you take that off, surely it's going to be permitted. But even if it's in the inside, even so, if you just take that, you don't have to do anything else. That's enough. That constitutes as bittul. The same, you might have said, since it was plastered inside the actual rock, it's similar to a stone which is harvested originally for the purpose of idol worship. B'titzar kulan is totally forbidden unless you do a real bittul by really destroying it. Kamash Malons, therefore the Mishnah comes Rabbi comes along and teaches me, no, that this is exactly the same as any other time they plaster it. And just through taking off the plaster, that is sufficient. Okay, let's hold it here. Thank you so much. I just want to let everybody know that we're our seed program, we're having a couple of learning programs over the next tomorrow we're having a learning program tonight. It's pretty late, so I don't know if everyone's going to be able to make it, but after Marav, we're doing a learning program. We have Chalent over there in the Kollel, and tomorrow morning we're doing a brunch and learn at 9:30. So if you guys want to come, more than welcome. It's free. It's awesome.
What time?
Late is after Marav, 9 o'clock, 9 p.m.
Yes.
Thank you.